Thank you for joining me again today. Now, this is the final episode on the 3 best exercises for a certain muscle group. So, I've saved the abs while they last because they're a bit of a weird one. Now, you may have heard the saying of abs are made in the kitchen, or anything that basically just gets across the point that no matter how hard you train your abs in the gym, that ain't going to make the abs show. Now, to an extent, I believe that's right, because your abs will show when you get below a certain body fat percentage. Now, that differs for everyone. For someone it might be 20, for someone else they could have to get as lean as 12. So, that's always going to vary person to person, but doing ab exercises helps to strengthen the core, and one exercise that comes to mind, it'll really help with the deadlift and keeping you stable and strong throughout the entire lift. So you know how this works. To get on this list, they've all got to be highly recommended, but the last one I say is the most recommended, and the first one I say is least recommended. So, starting the list off, we have the crunches. Now, I'm sure everyone knows how to do a crunch, or believes they know how to do a crunch. Whether the technique is 100% correct or not is a different story. But the crunch is a really good way to focus on the top parts of the abs. It's basically a half sit-up. You just want to make sure you're not cranking your head too much into it, because that ain't working any of your abs. You want to keep your head nice and stable, and slowly just raise your shoulder blades off of the floor. That's all you need to do. Very simple exercise. Can be done with weights if that's what you want, if you want to do it for low reps, but I'd just recommend doing it with your own body weight. Because let's face it, most people aren't getting a lot of reps with the crunches. They're really they burn a lot. They're a tough exercise to do. So moving on, next we have the hanging leg raises. So like if you have a pull-up bar, you just hang from there. You can either do this with bent knees or straight knees. My preference is with straight legs, but you're just going to raise your legs up as high as they'll go, and then slowly move them down. You want to make sure this one's nice and controlled. This one's the easiest on the list to do uncontrollably and tweak a muscle. Get any of those nasty twinges. You want to stay away from all that. You want to make sure by any means necessary you don't want that to be happening. So if basically when I do these, I will set myself a timer and progressively overload by adding a few seconds on each session. But again, you could progressively overload by adding a little bit of weight. You've all seen those belts with weight attachments that are primarily used for tricep dips. Again, if you want to add weight, that's a good way to do it. Moving on to the last exercise, this is the plank. Now, you can do this again like the hanging leg raises, progressively overload by adding more and more time, or you can it's a lot easier if you're training with a friend. You can get them to place some weights on your back. Negative though, if you are going to do that, if you start moving while you're doing it, there's a chance of the weight slipping off, and that could really injure you. If some slide over your head, that could hit your head, trap your fingers. I've seen people with broken fingers because I've done that. So I would recommend more doing it for a longer period of time. Now, one thing to note if you are a power lifter or want really strong compound lifts, while squatting, your spine, you're basically changing your spinal curvature from being a bit more straight to a bit slanted with how you place the bar. So if you're doing any ab exercises where you're cranking on your core, as in like the crunches, bringing it forward like that, and moving your spine around, Now that's going to negatively impact your spinal curvature. So if you're a powerlifter, I'd recommend staying away from all exercises that impact your back. That's why I am a big fan of the plank. It's 100% going to stay away from the back. It's why the hanging leg raises are on there. Again, keeps it all off the back if your technique's right. Yeah, highly recommend exercises for powerlifters that do not mess with the back. So, yeah, thank you for joining me on this shorter episode. But that concludes the 3 best exercises for a certain muscle group. So if there's anything anyone wants me to cover, any videos, any topics, I'm all up for that now. Now I've finished this series that I wanted to finish. I've not got anything planned for a few weeks, so I am a bit dry on content. If anyone can message me on Instagram or comment on in the comments down below, that'll be a big favour. So yeah, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in next week's episode.